About 80% of the trade in our world happens through the oceans, and that's why all the big superpowers try to keep these trade routes under their control. But very soon, there's one country that's going to disrupt all this world trade, and that country is none other than Canada. In making Canada so important for the future, its long coastline, ice-free ports, and strategic location all play a role, but the biggest factor is the Arctic. And because of the Arctic, many experts believe that Canada could soon change how global trade works. But what exactly is in the Arctic, and why is it so important for world trade? The Arctic is this entire blue-coloured region on the northern side of our planet. It includes the Arctic Ocean and parts of several countries. The first of these countries is Canada. All of Canada's northern and northwestern areas lie in the Arctic region. Second is Denmark. Now, since Greenland is under Denmark's control, that's why Denmark automatically becomes a part of the Arctic region. Greenland is the world's largest non-continental island, and only 15% of its area has people living in it, because the other 85% is covered with ice. Third on the list is Iceland. Now, technically, this country is right on the boundary of the Arctic Circle, but two of its islands, Grimsey and Kolbeinsey, are inside the Arctic Circle, and that's why it becomes an Arctic country. The fourth Arctic country is Norway, and nearly half of its land, about 50%, lies within the Arctic Circle. This includes the Svalbard and Jan Mayen Islands, which are also part of Norway. The fifth Arctic country is Sweden, with a significant part of its territory located within the Arctic Circle. Right next to it is Finland, the sixth Arctic country, whose northern region also lies inside the Arctic Circle. The seventh country is Russia, which shares a 15,000-mile-long coastline with the Arctic Ocean. 50% of the entire Arctic region's population lives in Russia, because almost all of Russia's northern part lies inside the Arctic Circle. And the last one on the list is the United States of America, which became a member of the Arctic region in 1867 when it bought Alaska from Russia. Now that we've understood what the Arctic region is, the next question is, why is this area so important for global trade? The simple answer is that once the ice melts, new shipping routes will emerge here that could completely change the map of the world's economy. Out of all the trade routes in the Arctic, two are the most important. One is the Northwest Passage, and the other is the Northern Sea Route. The Northwest Passage is a shipping route that connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. This route can greatly improve trade between Asia and North America, and it's also much cheaper than the current trade routes. Throughout history, humans have always looked for better trade routes between Europe and Asia. It was during one such search that in the 15th century, Christopher Columbus sailed through the Atlantic and ended up discovering America. He had tried coming north as well, but at that time the ice was too thick to go any further. Until the 20th century, people believed the Northwest Passage was just a myth and didn't actually exist. But in 1906, a Norwegian explorer named Roald Amundsen proved otherwise. He set sail from Norway in 1903 on a small ship, and after a long 3-year journey, he reached Herschel Island in Canada. This became the first recorded journey through the Arctic in human history. After that, though, no other commercial ships passed through this route for nearly 100 years. Then in 2013, a Dutch container ship that was supposed to travel from Vancouver to Finland through the Panama Canal decided to take the Northwest Passage instead. For the first time in 100 years, a commercial ship crossed this route. The journey was 4 days shorter, and they saved $80,000 in fuel costs. This successful trip brought global attention back to the Northwest Passage, and Western superpowers began seriously exploring the potential of using this route. Now, this is how this route will look like. Container ships will enter this Northwest Passage from here through the Davis Strait, and after crossing Baffin Bay, they'll enter the Beaufort Sea, and then after crossing the Chukchi Sea, they'll pass between Alaska and Russia and come out here into the Pacific Ocean. And from here, they'll be able to go either to Western America or Eastern Asia. Right now, traveling through this route is only possible with the help of icebreaker ships. But with the speed at which Arctic ice is melting, experts believe that between 2040 and 2050, even regular container ships will be able to pass through without any problem. And once that happens, global trade will change completely. For instance, a ship going from Japan to Western Europe currently travels 13,000 miles through the Suez Canal, but using the Northwest Passage via the Bering Strait, it could make the journey in just 7,000 miles. That's 6,000 miles shorter. Imagine how much time and money that would save. And naturally, if this new route becomes popular, the Panama and Suez Canals will lose a massive amount of traffic and revenue. Shipping companies will shift their routes toward the Northwest Passage, and whoever controls that passage will see their geopolitical importance skyrocket. Now, technically, all the Arctic countries, except for Russia, have friendly relations. But with this kind of money and opportunity on the line, Canada won't have an easy time claiming full control over the route. And to complicate things further, a country that isn't even in the Arctic is already showing serious interest in this passage. And that country is China. China's economy depends heavily on manufacturing and exports. Right now, Chinese goods travel through the Strait of Malacca, then the Indian Ocean, and finally the Suez Canal to reach Europe. It's a long route filled with choke points that could shut down trade in a crisis. That's why China sees the Northwest Passage as the perfect alternative. In fact, China has already started moving in that direction. In 2018, Chinese officials officially declared China a near-Arctic state, and in 2023, China sent its own domestically built icebreaker ship to explore the Arctic region. Now, China has publicly stated that it will respect international laws governing Arctic routes, but in the world of geopolitics, nothing is ever certain. And interestingly, China isn't even Canada's biggest obstacle here. The country giving Canada the most resistance is actually its close ally, the United States of America. This is surprising considering the long history of friendly relations between the two countries. But on this issue, they're at odds. Canada argues that the entire Northwest Passage belongs to it, since the route runs through Canadian waters and along its coastline. But the US disagrees. Washington says the route should be treated as an international waterway, open and free for all ships. That's a big loss for Canada, not just economically, but also strategically. There's another issue too. If the route is made free for everyone, and a ship gets stuck in the ice or runs into an emergency, there's no other country close enough to help. Canada believes it should be given full authority over the passage so that it can take responsibility for safety and offer support to vessels, just like the Suez Canal or Panama Canal authorities do. In return for a transit fee, Canada would provide facilities, rescue services, and proper monitoring. Right now, there's a stalemate between the US and Canada, but here's the twist. If the US keeps resisting, Canada might find support from Russia and China, both of whom have already shown interest in backing Canada's claim. And that's something the US cannot allow: Russian and Chinese influence in such a critical region. That's why many analysts believe that eventually America will accept Canada's position. And if that happens, Canada's economy is going to get a major boost. Even today, maritime trade is a huge part of the Canadian economy. In 2022 alone, Canada's shipping ports supported 30,000 jobs and generated $150 billion in revenue. So this route will definitely make Canada extremely important on the world map. There is only one alternative to this route, and that is the Northern Sea route. Along with the Northwest